Welcome back to our channel where we provide updates and undisclosed narratives on Catherine, Princess of Wales and her royal family. We provide you with the exciting news, Camilla in tears after King Charles, and Princess Anne's final ultimatum over her future role. Although King Charles III issued a historic royal edict, the name of Queen Camilla was not included in the instruction. There have been shockwaves produced by this, and they have spread all the way to the marble halls of Buckingham Palace and beyond. An agreement that calls for a substantial overhaul of the core operating circle of the monarchy was signed by the King of England and his sister, Princess Anne. An updated and simplified strategy for the future of the crown was the end outcome of this process. There are a lot of people who believe that the Queen Consort's removal from this enormous constitutional and symbolic document is a deliberate downgrade, a quiet earthquake that signals a change in the power dynamic within the House of Windsor. It was exactly 9:43 in the morning when the instruction came from the King's personal study location. It was first thought to be nothing out of the usual for the royal family to do anything out of the ordinary on a lovely morning in London. On the other hand, the contents of the letter caused the royal staff to quickly enter a state of paralysis due to anxiety and conjecture. Through this edict, a new body consisting of 4 senior royals has been legally established. These individuals will from this point forward act as the public face and operational engine of the monarchy. Members of this royal family include the Prince, Princess, King, and Queen of Wales, as well as many more members. It was a startling break from centuries of tradition that not only were the disgraced Duke of York and the self-exiled Duke of Sussex away from this inner sanctuary, but Queen Camilla herself was also absent from this sanctuary. According to staff of the palace who have not been named, the exclusion was not the result of a straightforward administrative mistake. The decision was intentional and well considered, and it was the result of months of passionate discussion that took place behind closed doors over the future of the institution and its potential reputation. According to a top advisor, this is the most significant movement in royal authority since the abdication, and it was not an accident. This transfer in power was not occurring by chance. The aims are to achieve stability, efficiency, and an unimpeachable image in the public community. Every choice that has been made since then has been based on that basis. As far back as anybody can remember, this key legislation has always been closely connected to the position of Queen Consort. Her steadfast support for the monarchy and the continuance of the monarchy is shown by her action, which serves as a signal. Although their functions were mostly ceremonial in nature, the institution placed a significant amount of significance on the sheer fact that they were there on paper. This is the reason why Camilla's unexpected departure has shaken the foundations of the royal family to their very core. In other words, it is not only a hint at change, rather it indicates a huge rift at the core of the monarchy. Despite the fact that it has not offered any comment on the matter, the magazine has been rather quiet over the lineup change. An unrelenting accumulation carried out line by line is the primary focus of the work. There is a lot of significance in the fact that Princess Anne's brother also signed the proclamation. This reveals that the Queen and the lady, who is generally recognized as the unwavering defender of the duty legacy of Queen Elizabeth II, are in accord with one another. Through this deed, Anne is elevated to the position of senior royal and becomes a co-architect of her brother's authority. When compared to more recent periods, many who have worked for the Queen for a significant amount of time have seen that the mood within the palace has become more weighty and less confident. It has been reported by those who are employed in the private office of the King that Charles paused and shook his hand before signing the document. Those who knew Princess Anne well described her as steady as stone, meaning that she was unfazed by her commitment. At the top of her list of priorities is making certain that the monarchy will continue functioning. It is necessary for her to get rid of anything that may be considered a liability, such as unnecessary diversions, expensive expenditures, or persons that could add complexity to the crown's story. In order to do this, she must get rid of everything. Furthermore, the consequence is horrific, despite the fact that it is historically important. The name of Queen Camilla has been written in black ink on the contract that was supposed to create the relationship between the royal family and the future. During a ceremony that was broadcast on televisions all over the globe, she was crowned alongside her husband. Despite the fact that there has been a change in administration, there is already a rift developing under the throne. Therefore, even the queen consort is not exempt from the perils that are associated with this new period. If you want to understand the significance of this moment, you will need to go past the documents and into the months of covert, deliberate conflicts that have been taking place beyond the walls of the royal palace. In spite of the fact that no one saw these wars, they profoundly impacted the path that modern monarchy would take. A royal ascent. The one responsible for crown planning. The media has historically focused on the most famous or controversial members of the royal family. However, Princess Anne has subtly become known for something far more enduring: her doggedness. She has always preferred to stay out of the spotlight, and her lifelong commitment to self-control and accountability has allowed her to rise through the ranks of the royal family as an unsung hero. That serene presence became the most influential hand guiding the crown after her mother's death and her brother's succession. According to insiders at the palace, Prince Charles's most trusted advisor is Princess Anne, not Queen Camilla. Her unwavering determination and pragmatic outlook are shaping the monarchy's destiny, making her indispensable. After Charles became king, Anne's responsibilities expanded greatly. The frequency of state visits, complex diplomatic briefings, and military patronages under her supervision has been steadily increasing. This is not an assignment based on nepotism, rather it reflects unwavering trust in her abilities and discretion. The media's fixation was on the dynamics between Charles, Camilla, William, and Harry, but Anne was there in the war room. She attended all the high-level strategy meetings, briefings on procedure that were held behind closed doors, and crucial discussions on the monarchy's public-facing role. Anne presided over the institution as others posed for the cameras. Over time, almost unnoticed, she has become an indispensable member of the royal family. Not only was her ascent remarkable for its rapidity, but it also stands in stark contrast to Queen Camilla's predicament. In an effort to emulate her late mother, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother Camilla has shown poise, charisma, and steadfast support in her ceremonial roles. But that paradigm is beginning to look its age in the face of the critical scrutiny of the modern day. Inside the palace, courtiers saw the transformation unfold before their own eyes. When King Charles needed frank advice on matters of state or institutional policy, he increasingly turned to his sister rather than his wife. Though she remained a linchpin in his life and an emotional anchor, Camilla's position began to seem less significant among the intricate workings of the crown. Camilla brought charisma and a human touch, while Anne brought strategy and extensive knowledge of process. As a monarchy struggles to prove its value, strategy has emerged as the most valuable asset. Despite the fact that the two women never acknowledged the level of tension between them, the whole household was aware of it. According to reliable sources, there is a major clash of viewpoints. Public relations and her natural beauty were Camilla's weapons in her more modern image production arsenal. In contrast, Anne was a stickler for tradition, discipline, and hierarchy. Only one of the two opposing theories about the proper functioning of a contemporary monarchy was able to gain the king's support in his efforts to preserve the institution. The tension peaked in the months before the directive, according to senior aides. Taking Charles aside, Anne reportedly gave him a firm but courteous warning. Elevating Camilla's position too rapidly risks alienating both the wary public and the long-serving royal staff who had come to admire the late Queen's well-planned policy. In expressing her sincere wish for Camilla to be recognized as Queen Consort, Queen Elizabeth II had been extremely explicit. The distinction wasn't a suggestion to Anne. Rather, it was a sacred boundary. According to rumors, Anne graciously but firmly pushed back when Camilla's servants began to cross the line by requesting a more important and unqualified position. Rumor has it that the Princess Royal was instrumental in shaping the final version of the explosive royal decree that is all the news at the moment. She spearheaded the effort to reduce the core lineup to 4 members, arguing that this would demonstrate the group's stability and concentration more effectively than any other approach. The message was very clear: these are the pillars around which the crown will build its future. All in, nothing out. Few in the king's entourage had the guts or strength to oppose her brutal consolidation, but it didn't stop others from disapproving. Anne's strength is now practical, significant, and unassuming, rather than a show. The corridors of power are beginning to hear a new name as a result of her increasing influence among key advisors. Their term for her is the strategist behind the throne, a term that Charles prefers to keep to himself. It's not a formal title, but its actuality speaks louder than words on paper. As a result of her meticulous planning, Anne is now the monarchy's chief architect, as well as its defender and stabilizer. The Queen in isolation. Camilla's declining status gaining authority never comes without a price, and it seems that Queen Camilla has been marginalized as a result of Princess Anne's rise to the position. The woman who had been publicly anointed as Charles's partner and who had been recognized as his closest friend finds herself unexpectedly estranged from the same group she was intended to be a leader in. Making more public appearances, accepting more patronages, and attempting to strengthen her ceremonial position are all ways Camilla has been striving to move up in the last several months. The Queen Consort was lastly receiving the respect she so well deserved, and many saw this as a positive and inevitable development. Her growing prominence was welcomed by some, but not all in the palace. It was seen by several senior advisors as having the potential to disrupt the careful equilibrium established after the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. Despite the paramount need for stability, her audacity was causing chaos and giving the impression that the crown was unstable, according to their whispers. Camilla and Anne began to engage in more subtle cold shouldering. Disagreements arose on the proper public behavior of the royal family, the degree to which they need to adhere to ceremonial traditions, and the overarching strategic goals of the household. According to those who work there are 2 powerful women who approach things in quite different ways. Even though she introduced herself as the king's contemporary partner, Camilla yearned for a more contemporary role. That drive nevertheless clashed with Anne's steadfast commitment to tradition. This was followed by the order. Hundreds of years ago, the Queen Consort's name ought to have been an element of ceremonial affairs. It was an intentional, severe message to not have it. Sources close to the writing process state that Camilla was not consulted over the final version. Her gift is a product of what has already transpired. Her elimination was of the utmost importance in a system where each word inscribed on paper had significance. Her inclusion in the Crown's operational aim for the long term was discontinued. Her loved ones whisper as they discuss the fallout. She now has to deal with the constant presence of a subtle but noticeable chill. The subtle changes illustrate the contrast between being at the center of power and being pushed to the periphery. Camilla, according to sources, now often finds out about major decisions from other people and has to piece together the details after crucial meetings have concluded. Major state events no longer include her in their planning sessions. She supposedly has her own separate office that is no longer linked to the king's. It takes a long time for her to learn about the choices made by the core four, Charles, Anne, William, and Catherine. According to those who know her well, she is still affected by this chilly, purposeful exclusion, even if she grins in public. This is a premeditated sideline, not an outcome of some public scandal. Even if her sphere of influence has significantly diminished, Camilla continues to work calmly and diligently. No longer does her voice carry into the inner hallways where decisions on the destiny of the crown are being made. The message becomes louder and harsher with each unsigned order and uninvited covert strategy gathering. The fate of the kingdom will be written by someone else, not her. The King's Gambit. A king caught between his emotions and his position. At the epicenter of this tempest is King Charles III, a monarch, emotionally and politically entangled. He finds himself caught between the desires of a modern, accountable monarchy, his sister's ardent desire to preserve their mother's legacy, the discord within his own family, and the lady who has been at his side for many years. Charles had relied on Camilla as his emotional support system throughout his years of embarrassment, public shame, and relentless scrutiny. It is a testament to their strength that she rose from being the other woman to being a famous queen consort. Love alone could not have carried the burden of the crown when it finally fell on his head. To shield the monarchy from the onslaught of modern criticism, he had to make a choice no one could ever imagine. For months, there had been intense political and popular pressure. There was always a vocal minority that disagreed with Camilla's position even in Parliament. Nonetheless, her position as queen was a reminder of the hurts they had never fully recovered from. The new king could not afford the widespread discord that polls showed existed about her position. The whole royal family came under scrutiny as Parliament sought a more efficient and cost-effective monarchy. Upon first receiving the draft directive, Charles hesitated. He reportedly put it off for days, demanding revisions and engaging in drawn-out heated debates with his closest advisers. His deputies said that he seemed nervous and conflicted. However, as time passed, the strategic approach became more apparent. The advice from Princess Anne was quite clear. The monarchy had to be completely forceful and forthright. The institution would have been better off without Camilla in the decree if her inclusion would have watered down the message or rekindled old hurts. Anne believed that allegiance to the crown entailed doing nothing less. The king was finally forced to confront an unpalatable reality. Protecting the organization he had laboriously managed would require him to sacrifice part of his own dedication. Signing the decree with Anne was a politically astute move. By framing the decision as an institutional duty with the approval of the family's most cherished traditionalist, it shielded him from accusations of personal betrayal. In the end, Charles put his responsibilities ahead of his feelings. There was a significant personal cost to the act, according to sources. The same guy who had previously stood up to the world on Camilla's behalf was now legally removing her from the center of his reign by signing the same document. A king's gamble, a sacrifice for the future, it altered the fundamental human connections inside the realm in an irrevocable way. What follows? A global inferno and the establishment of a new royal dynasty. A low-key royal ceremony became front-page news throughout the globe when the declaration was announced. Major news outlets such as CNN and the BBC hurried to verify the claims, and once they did, the criticism was swift and severe. The public saw Camilla's departure as a relegation signal. Although her official title remained unchanged, some argued that her omission from a document of this magnitude diminished its significance. The move was hailed by some in the British press as a long-awaited correction of history. Others characterized it as a historic betrayal, claiming that Camilla had endured public animosity for years, earned her place, and was then disregarded once her husband's position was solidified. Many people were active on various social media platforms. Hashtags like Justice for Diana and Royal Reckoning joined our stand with Camilla in dividing the internet along ideological lines. Things were already complicated when a YouGov study showing 62% support for the plan to streamline the monarchy was released within 24 hours, further adding fuel to the fire. This was mostly caused by Princess Anne's increasing popularity ratings. She was admired by everybody for her integrity and sense of duty. The leadership of King Charles was the larger problem that international news sources covered. Le Monde's title questioned, why didn't he protect her now if he stood by her for decades? The New York Times pondered the question, asking whether this indicated strategic genius or a marriage falling apart under the weight of the crown. In the background, a new royal hierarchy is taking shape. The core four, Charles, Anne, William, and Catherine, are now obviously reshaping the vision for the monarchy in the 21st century. The enormous long-standing concept of a huge extended family of working royals is out. In its place, there is a business-like structure that is intended to endure. According to palace insiders, this select group will now be responsible for all major royal events from state visits to national holidays. There has been a subtle reallocation of Camilla's duties, with Princess Catherine gaining prominence as the monarchy's most approachable and popular figure, thanks to her popularity and diplomatic grace. Princess Anne, who is already juggling a lot, will need to do even more to cement her position as the top administrator of the institution. It's not merely a matter of scheduling, it's a matter of power. Speculation has it that discussions are taking place within the family regarding the potential re-evaluation of inherited honors and titles, including many that belong to Camilla. Each new position she takes on will be perceived as a subtle attack on the credibility she has laboriously built. Rumor has it that future decrees may go even farther, urging constitutional amendments that would establish this smaller model as permanent. Do you think the Queen will back down or continue fighting? After the initial shock has worn off, all eyes are on Queen Camilla. The way she handles this public and private setback will decide how long she remains a monarch. In the days that followed, she postponed several public events, and the government has provided only brief official explanations for why. The empty slots on the royal calendar reveal a lot. The group she is a part of is arguing that two paths are open to her. The first is to gradually and respectfully withdraw from public life, which is not seen as a failure, but as an individual choice to prioritize her health and privacy. This would allow her to leave the front lines without being forced to fight an unwinnable public battle. A source close to her who wished to remain anonymous said that she was more determined now than ever. This path would entail a subtle rebellion, using her network of sympathetic journalists and allies to subtly push back against the new narrative, reminding the public of her service and the king's importance. However, there are others who believe that she is not yet ready to go. Supposedly, she is finding her interactions with the new Core Four less than cordial. William and Catherine's relationship was once amicable, but things have changed since the Prince and Princess of Wales are assuming responsibilities previously held by Camilla. William is said to fully support the streamlining that has marginalized his stepmother. He is extremely cautious about the monarchy's public image and considers his mother's legacy when making decisions. The news that began as speculation has now been confirmed as official policy. The exclusion of Queen Camilla from the royal family was more than a mere indicator. It marked the beginning of a structural reorganization. The crown that she had hoped to share is being transformed in this new, smaller kingdom without her. Instead, attention is being directed toward the future, toward William and Catherine, the charming and carefree representatives of the next generation. Not only is King Charles's legacy being shaped by his constructions, but also by what he has had to relinquish, both romantically leaving the kingdom for love and pragmatically changing his reign to protect the institution, which is seen as both a noble sacrifice and a cold betrayal by some. As the ink dries on the order that removed her name from the list, one thing is certain: the House of Windsor has changed irrevocably. The faces may be the same, but the foundation has shifted. The decision Queen Camilla must make to quietly fade into oblivion, or to make one final stand, will have far-reaching consequences, the effects of which are only now beginning to be felt across the realm. People from every corner of the world are eagerly awaiting the outcome of this unprecedented event. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts, and goodbye for now.